Tim Keller.
Okay, well, I went over question 2 quite a bit before. I'll skip on to 3. What are ideas for bringing Port Huron back to fiscal stability and health? The main thing I'm focusing on is I want affordable government. And one of the best ways to do that is for government to focus on the essential services for what it exists to provide. Again, police and fire protection, clean water, good paved roads. And not getting involved in things that city government should not be involved in. When you have city government trying to create the jobs in the area, when you have city government trying to create the businesses in the area, you're going to have a problem. That's a top-down approach versus a free market approach where you free up individuals and businesses to freely make the decisions they need to do on a day-to-day basis to have their business run well. Economist Friedrich A. Hayek in his book Road to Serfdom said, talking about government, and he was referring to national government, but you can apply this to city government as well. He wrote that the more the state plans, the more difficult planning becomes for the individual. And I think the worst case scenario over the past 2 years, and I think even incumbents would agree with this, is that when the city government took over running the Blue Water Festival, it was a big mistake. Over $200,000 were spent to run the event, and within 2 years, they have really brought the event down to a low it has never before witnessed. For 80 years, private individuals, volunteers, ran that event, and it was the big moneymaker in this city. I can remember in 84 and 85 working at McDonald's over by the bridge, and during boat week, every single one of us in that business had our schedules scheduled to the max. And you worked from the minute you hit the floor until the minute your manager finally released you. And you worked hard because that week, our managers made it very clear, they brought in more money that week than any other week in the year. Boat week boomed and did just fine without government interference. As soon as government planning got involved with it, that's when it deteriorated. And it cost more and was less effective. And that's sad to see, but it follows that principle that economist Hayek talked about, the road to serfdom. Again, the more the state plans, the more difficult planning becomes for the individual. Again, during the Blue Water Festival, at our karate school, I was talking with the owner, and he talked about the fact that last summer, during Blue Water Festival, he had big plans that week for the karate school. He was going to have the front doors open and invite people to come in and see what goes on, have the students demonstrate what they're learning, and make it a showcase for the community to see, here's the school, this is available for anyone who wants to sign up and get involved. What he actually found out was that once the festival began, he was not even to have his doors open in the front of the store. It's in the old Braitzel building, so if you know where that copper awning is at, that's where Professional Karate Schools of America, Port Huron, is located. He couldn't even have his doors open. He said something about the flea market that was running out front. That took precedent over the local businesses having their establishments open to the community, and that had not even been communicated to him. When I asked him, and I've talked to a few other business owners downtown, if there's one thing he could change about the way city government handles business dealing with you, what would you change? First thing he said was communication. Communication is number one. I talked to the owner of Emery's. He said the same thing. Even before he complained about the taxes and the utility rates, he said the first thing I would change is communication. That's sad when we have business owners who are saying this city government is not even communicating with them and is actually becoming an interference with their business. What city government should do is roll out the carpet for business. Small businesses run the economy. They are the American economy. They have been since before the United States declared independence from Britain. And we are interfering with that in dangerous ways. We do it to our detriment. And it's not just in Port Huron. It's kind of like a national epidemic where you have the planners coming in. Government knows what's best for business. That's the attitude they have. Let the top-down solution work. It doesn't work. We need to get out of the way of business, get out of the way of individuals. Eventually, it would be nice to get away from the city business tax. I'd like to see that first before the income tax, because we've got to get off their backs. We can't lose another Emery's. We can't lose another Powers Diner. We can't afford it. As far as making government more transparent, it's good to know so many candidates up here do have their campaigns on Facebook. Mine is there as well. I'd like to use my page a lot like Representative Justin Amash does his. He's a representative in Congress now from the west side of the state. And he, on his Facebook page, explains the rationale for every vote he makes. Some of his constituents have been surprised at some of his votes, but when he explains the reasons for it and the principles on which he bases it, it's number one, it allows him to communicate to constituents what bills are facing Congress and why he's voting the way he is. And it allows his constituents to give feedback to him. I'd like to do the same thing with my Facebook page. Once I'm elected, I want to continue that Facebook page, and instead of being a campaign page, I want it to be my councilman page explaining why I'm voting the way I am, informing constituents as to what is going on in city government. Also, as far as transparency is concerned, basically in the United States, there are three forms of municipal government. One is the mayor-council form, where the mayor does the hiring and firing of city employees, and the council has real power over the policies of the city government. The second form is the commissioner form of government, in which the heads of every department are elected directly by the people. The fire chief is elected by the people. The police commissioner is elected by the people. The water department director is elected by the people. If any one of those departments is not working within budget or meeting the people's needs, the people can remedy that directly. Last form is the city manager form of government. The council has very little power. The real power is in the hands of a city manager, and that position is usually unelected and is appointed by the council. That's the form of government we have. And not to pick on personalities, but it has nothing to do with it. As a system of government, it is the least democratic of the three. In a mayor form of government, the people can directly elect the person who does the hiring and firing. And if that person's not getting the job done, they can clean house. In a commissioner form, there's even more accountability because every single head of every single department has to answer to the people. But in the city manager form of government, and this is where I was remiss in not being involved in the charter commission, I should have voiced my opinion there. I would like to see us, even though this new charter doesn't go into effect until January, I'd like to see our city charter amended to give the real power and authority to the mayor. And the mayor can hire and fire any one of those 300 city employees if the job isn't getting done. If you want to clean out the good old boy network of getting stuff done in Port Huron, that's the way to do it.
Thank you, Tim.